It's not a good time to be Doctor Who. Hell, it's not even a good time to be the BBC. This week, it's all going down on the show. First, we've got Jodie Whittaker once again dragging out the old toxic fandom excuse, as if people disliking her run had nothing to do with the terrible writing and everything to do with her being a woman. Apparently, she still can't accept that her era was objectively a failure, both critically and commercially. And then there's Ncuti Gatwa, who, despite all the BBC's desperate attempts to hype him up, is already seeing his tenure under threat. Reports are coming in that Doctor Who's future is far from secure, and now, in a move that reeks of sheer desperation, the BBC is supposedly considering bringing back David Tennant again to try and save the show. Welcome to the Snake Pit, where we're full of bile and venom. I'm your host, Snake Daemon, and today we're talking about how Doctor Who is in real trouble. And no matter how much they sugarcoat it, David Tennant can't save this show. He proved that when he came back for the 60th anniversary specials. Numbers may have looked decent on paper, but there was no real excitement, no cultural impact. Just a fleeting attempt to regain lost viewers before throwing them into yet another era of DEI-driven mediocrity. No, if Doctor Who is going to survive, it needs to take a different approach. But, of course, the BBC won't listen to a fan of 40 years. Hell, they won't listen to anyone with half a brain. If the BBC wants Doctor Who to remain relevant, they need to distance themselves from the main series for a while, take a step back, draw influence from the past. And what better place to look than K9 and company? We have a ton of characters from classic Who that could easily carry a 2- or 3-part story. These wouldn't be full spin-offs, but mini-series that build on past lore while letting the main show take a breather. Tegan and the Mara. Tegan already had a recurrence of the Mara's influence in Snake Dance, but what if there was a third possession, and this time without the Doctor's presence? We already know Big Finish tackled this, but let's be real, Big Finish has adapted everything, including a Mary Shelley companion arc. The difference here would be live action, a true psychological horror story about Tegan facing the Mara alone. Peri and King Yrcanos, another idea Big Finish has dabbled in, but let's be honest, it's not the same without Brian Blessed. Imagine a historical political drama set in Yrcanos' kingdom where Peri, now Queen, has to navigate diplomacy, war and possibly another threat from time. Would she regret her life with Yrcanos, or would she embrace it? This could be completely different from the usual Doctor Who formula and give us something more in line with Game of Thrones style world building, if done right. Mel and Glitz. Now, sadly, Tony Selby has passed away, but that doesn't mean his story can't be expanded on. Glitz was always a wild card, a lovable rogue who existed in the morally grey areas of the Doctor Who universe. What happened to Mel after she left with him? Did she turn pirate? Did she try to keep Glitz in check? Did she get conned? There's so much potential here for a light-hearted sci-fi crime adventure, with Mel constantly questioning why she ever left the Doctor in the first place. Susan and David, probably the biggest missed opportunity of all. Susan stayed behind on Earth for love, but what happened next? How did she and David navigate a post-Dalek invasion Earth? Did the Time Lords ever try to pull her back into Gallifreyan politics? Did she ever search for the Doctor? Susan has been sitting in the vault of abandoned characters for decades, and instead of doing yet another pointless Doctor Who spin-off about teenagers fighting aliens, class, this would have been a goldmine. Romana and the Decayed Master. Now this could be something special. Romana was last seen as the President of Gallifrey, which immediately opens up countless storytelling opportunities. But what if we got a political thriller set on Gallifrey, one where Romana is dealing with a major crisis? A decayed version of the Master resurfaces, launching a calculated strike against the Time Lords while playing a long game of manipulation and subterfuge. Imagine it. Gallifrey under siege from within, the decayed Master pulling strings in the shadows, recruiting rogue Time Lords, planting doubt in the High Council. We could see Romana forced into a game of wits with him as he exploits Gallifreyan bureaucracy to his advantage. using his decayed state as sympathy bait while working on some grand scheme. Think of something like House of Cards, but in the Doctor Who universe. Secret alliances, betrayals, Time Lords working against each other for power, and Romana trying to hold it all together. Maybe she realizes too late that the Master has already outplayed her in ways she never expected. Maybe we even see how Gallifrey starts heading towards its eventual destruction long before the Time War. And if they really wanted to go big, get Geoffrey Beevers back as the Master. He still nails that Decayed version. This isn't some campy villain twirling his moustache. This is a manipulative, patient Master who uses his physical deterioration to convince others that he's weak while setting up something far worse. This could be one of the best Gallifrey stories ever told. Another approach the BBC should take is embracing its history. How about finally giving us a true reconstruction of the Daleks' master plan? And I don't mean some cheap animation, I mean a full live-action remake, script intact with David Bradley stepping in as the first Doctor. We already have the audio, so we know exactly what was said. We have the original scripts, the original structure, it's all there, just waiting to be remade with modern production values. Do all 12 episodes, release them in full color, but also provide a black and white version for purists. Obviously, we'd need new actors for their lost companions, but if they stay faithful to the story, fans would embrace it. Get Big Finish's Monk as a replacement for Peter Butterworth. And here's a thought. Bring in some star power to make this a true event. How about Robert Englund as Mavic Chen? Imagine that. And hell, if they really want to go big, they could even film part of it in Egypt, embracing the location-hopping nature of the original story. If they really wanted to make it a blockbuster event, they could even release a cut-down version in cinemas, much like they did with Day of the Doctor. And then there's the big one, the Daleks themselves. Instead of another half-baked spin-off like Class or Torchwood Miracle Day, the BBC should take a serious approach and give us a Dalek-centric mini-series. Not from the Doctor's perspective, but the Daleks themselves. Show them plotting, conquering, becoming a credible threat again. This wouldn't just be another standard Doctor Who episode with Daleks shouting "exterminate" and getting blown up after 20 minutes. No, this should be their story. Something more in line with Genesis of the Daleks. Something that explores their politics, their hierarchy, their strategies. Something that makes them dangerous again. Imagine a cold, brutal war story following Daleks fighting across the universe, eradicating species, testing new tactical warfare. Maybe we see a new Dalek commander rising through the ranks. Maybe we witness a civil war between different Dalek factions. Maybe for the first time, we get inside their twisted minds. And the beauty of this, it could be a major plot point for a future story. Instead of the Daleks just showing up in a finale out of nowhere, we've already seen what they're up to. We know what's coming. Doctor Who is in trouble, that much is obvious. The BBC can pretend otherwise, but no amount of David Tennant or corporate hype is going to bring back an audience that has moved on. If the BBC actually wanted to fix things, they'd take a break from the main series and reinvest in its past. Mini-stories focusing on classic companions, a faithful recreation of the Daleks' master plan, a serious Dalek spin-off that makes them terrifying again, and political intrigue on Gallifrey featuring Romana facing off against the Decayed Master. Now that is something that could get fans talking again. But will they do any of this? Of course not. Thanks for dropping by the Snake Pit, where we thrive on untapped potential and lost opportunities. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell like the video. And leave your opinions in the comments, where naturally I won't read them. Until next time, stay venomous.